Yeah, I was making content, and so my friend Richard, who I had on the podcast, he's a paraplegic. He had an accident 10 years ago, and I met him through the podcast, and my friend was like, "Hey, you should talk to this guy on your podcast." And at the time, I was down to do a podcast with anybody.
I remember. Yeah.
I was just trying to do numbers.
Everyone.
I remember. I remember.
Would you do that differently looking back?
No, I killed it.
Really?
Dude, I worked so hard on that podcast. I remember there were days when I literally drove all around town all day. I would record like 3 podcasts. Then I stayed up that night editing the one that I needed to release. Like my thing was like, I wanted to get to like 100 episodes as fast as possible. And before anyone like actually knew who I was, so that I could just iron out all the kinks and meet all the make all the like smaller connections, and then bam, all of a sudden, like, who's this fucking guy? Like, how have I never heard of the show? He has 100 episodes, even though I did it in like 9 months. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like that was kind of the like barrier that for whatever reason, 100 was like a really big milestone to me. So and I was like determined to hit it within like a year, which meant like more than 2 podcasts a week. So basically at the time and they were audio only in the beginning, so very minimal editing, you know. Anyways, so I met this dude, Richard, and at the time he was really wanting to share his story. He was inspired by a bunch of YouTubers and stuff like that, and he felt like he could bring value to people that were also like newly injured wheelchair users that had just gotten into an accident. Typically it's like young males that are involved in some sort of like accident, and they end up in a wheelchair at a younger age, and you feel like your whole life is taken away from you. You know, your dick doesn't work anymore. You're, you know, having to use catheters and stuff. You just feel like, what girl wants to date me? Like, you know, just a bunch of stuff. My health is bad now. How am I going to work out? So many things. And you have a close friend that is also
Very
paraplegic.
Close, yeah.
And very similar, you know, type of thing happens.
I think worse than Richard.
Yeah. Because Richard's, he fell. Chris is, I think, a little higher of an injury. And what was the accident? He was shot?
He got mugged, yeah.
He got mugged, yeah.
Shot in the back.
Fucking crazy.
Like, fucking how ratchet are people, man?
The crazy thing too with spinal cord injury, like so many people don't even like really realize, but it's a crazy injury, and it's actually like, I mean, it can happen to anyone.
You realize your spine is actually your brain,
literally
just extended through your body.
Yup, literally, it's just a piece of your brain that's just going all the way down.
Yeah. And
depending on where you get hit, that point down, you're affected. You know.
Yeah.
So. Needless to say, I've learned a lot about spinal cord injury over this journey. But basically, Richard and I started working together. He was my first like client with my video, you know, whatever. Like basically, it started off with him and me. I remember the conversation actually. Kat was like, Richard, you're looking into hiring someone to make your videos because basically you have the money to like start this little venture, but you don't want to like actually edit it and take the learning curve to like figure this out. You'd rather just like, you know, have someone help you. Andrew, you're good enough at video that you're still learning, but you're good enough. You're way better than what Richard is. And you want to quit your job. How much money do you need to be making doing this podcast consulting and working with Richard to be able to quit your job? And I was like, this much. I don't even remember how much it was. It was like a couple $1,000. You know, how much do you need to make a month? And I was living at my parents' house. So like I was paying them, I think out of principle, they were like making me pay rent, but it was like $500 or something. And I was like, I need to make this much. And Kat was like, Richard, how much money can you pay Andrew? And he was like, about this much. And she was like, Andrew, how much money do you think you can make on podcast consulting? And I was like, about this much. And she was like, quit your job. Like the money is there. You just need to like do it. And I was like, holy shit, you're right. So Richard and I started working together, and basically it was like we were going to make.
Cat girl really affected you, huh?
She really did. I remember one night, like maybe it was like a year and a half ago. I remember like really having like kind of an emotional night of just like thinking about a lot of stuff. And I sent her like a really long voice note, like saying like how much I appreciated her and stuff. Cause she really did, like, she really changed my life in a lot of ways. And the cool thing is she's a systems coach. That's like what her like main venture is. She helps people, like she goes into their business, basically is like, all of this shit is broken. Here is Asana. Here's Monday.com. Here's this. Here's this. Here's this. Here's this. And so I learned a ton about all of that side of the world, of the business world through her. And that's actually, I think, you mentioned to me like a couple of weeks ago or maybe a couple months ago about like, he's like, Andrew, the thing I really appreciate you about is like, not only do you have the like artistic side, but you're also like very organized and you can like understand the importance of like scalability and things like that. And I credit a lot of that understanding to hanging out with her and just being around her and listening to her types of conversations. Because cool. I realized like, oh, if you can do so much as yourself, but if you can figure out a system and hire VAs and like do all this stuff, that was where I like I learned a lot from her because I saw her doing this and I'm like, wow, you know, you can actually build something. So anyway, I started working with Richard. He was basically kind of like my first like client, and then it became my only client essentially. Like my plan was to work with a bunch of businesses and, you know, do video for a lot of people and kind of eventually build a team. But, you know, it just became me kind of just doing it all. And I never ended up really like building the agency that I like wanted to build, like a media company that I really wanted to build. And I did do some consulting for a couple of companies and like especially podcast type stuff, like doing a video podcast because eventually I moved to video. That was it's logistically a lot. I mean, we're doing it right now. Like you can kind of imagine like Terry, if you were like, you know, if your boss came up to you and was like, hey, I want to do a video podcast. Can you do some research on like what we need? Like, there's a lot of very specific skill sets that you kind of need. Like, not only do you need to like know about like the hosting of it and how you're going to get it out there and how you're going to market it and stuff, but like you also have to deal with all the logistics of the physical equipment. And not only that, but the cost of it all and the logistics of like, oh, are we going to do like a 3-camera setup? Like now we have to have 3 cameras and, you know, who's going to edit it and who's going to make sure the audio sounds good. And, you know, even just knowing all the camera settings that you need to know, like, it's just a lot. And, so basically I was able to come into like a few different places and help them, you know, build out podcast stuff. And that was cool. But, yeah, it kind of just came into me and Richard just being really great business partners and building this YouTube channel for a long time. And we ultimately, I think our channel has definitely, I think we crossed 10 million views. I think we were at like 11 or 12 million views total on the channel, which was really cool. We had a really awesome video podcast. Eventually I kind of stopped doing my podcast because the Wheels2Walking podcast became like such a bigger audience that we transitioned. So then it was kind of a similar show to what we're doing right now. It's just always the same 2 hosts, me and Richard, doing a podcast, every week about, you know, just all kinds of stuff. And we grew that. It was really cool. I think probably the highlight of our like YouTube career was winning a Shorty Award, which is a lot of people still don't really know what that is, but it's basically it's like a private award ceremony, just like any award ceremony really is. It's not like the government or anything like that. So like, who's to say what the award really is worth? But it's cool because it's not just video. It's like the entire internet. So we were in the health and wellness category for YouTube or for just in general. And there was like David Goggins was one of the competitors. Wow. Like,
and you won
the year before for health and wellness. Who won it? It's like oh my God, now I'm just like blanking and I'm just thinking of like Indian names, but it's like really big. Like, I think he's like an Indian guy. He has a really big channel. I can't think of the name. It'll come to me in a second.
Dean.
No, it was in Terry, can you look it up? Like Shorty Award winner 2019 health and wellness.
Indian.
It will be him. Yeah. Just cute SEO Indian. I don't even know if he's Indian. I could be totally wrong on that, but anyways, we won that, which was extremely cool, but that was during COVID, which kind of sucked because we didn't get to go to the actual ceremony and like meet all these other winners and stuff, which, you know, kind of blew, but still really cool that we won. And yeah, it was just a wild riding that YouTube game of like views and, you know, exposure and Instagram. And that was when I really like learned my chops of like editing, because I had to pump out a high quality video, not only filmed but edited, a thumbnail made, the IG promo for perfectly, you know, sized and aspect ratioed for Instagram, and you know, all that kind of stuff. And I just got to kind of experiment, and you know, like that was right when TikTok came out, so I was like, Richard, we got to build a TikTok. He's like, I don't want to do another account. I was like, I'll run it. I'll post videos. All I did was recycle content. We did not film. We maybe filmed like 2 original TikToks. We grew his TikTok to like 120,000 followers in like a month. You know what I mean? And like, you can still do that on TikTok, but this was like in the like kind of still really early days where it was really easy almost. If you just posted good stuff, you would just get views. But anyways, like stuff like that, I just got to play around, and that really like factors into exactly what I'm doing now. Hope you enjoyed that clip. If you want to watch the full episode, you can click right here. If you want to watch more clips, you can click right here. And if you want to subscribe to this channel, you can click right here to stay up to date when we drop new clips.